was.
Mm-hmm.
She just had her, I don't want to put her business out there, but Peerless just had a beautiful surprise 40th for his lovely wife,
nice.
who looks like she's 30, by the way.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Finn. Yeah, he's nice. But yeah, so I live here in Atlanta. This year I started training receivers over at CSI that's getting draft ready. It was about 13 guys. Ray Buchanan did the DBs. I did the receivers. I play basketball with Finn. That's my personal activity. I have 2 daughters that play soccer and basketball. They go to Great Atlanta Christian School.
Nice.
So I keep busy, and I also have on the side a nonprofit AAU girls organization that I coach 3 girls teams. And so,
good gracious,
he's busy.
I'm too busy, but that's the only way I know how to be.
Who are some of the guys you're talking to, the receivers? Can you mention a couple of the guys that either got drafted or looking to make some teams?
Okay, so they're all, so I got, what is Mountain Man? So I'm bad with names, but I know all their first names. Fred Brown actually played at Mississippi State. He's with the Jets right now. Malcolm, what is Malcolm's last name? He played at the University of Miami. He's actually with the Dolphins right now in camp. Ralph David Abernathy played at Tennessee, but started at Cincinnati. He's in Canadian League right now.
GAC kid or no?
Well, you know what? His brother Micah, who's the starting safety at Tennessee, is a Tennessee kid. I had a kid from UConn. I forget his name. This kid thought, I know I'm on the radio, I probably shouldn't say this, but oh well. This kid thought he was Randy Moss.
God's gift to receivers?
He thought he was going first round. He ended up not being drafted, but he had caught 106 balls last year at UConn, led the nation. But
yeah, it's funny, those guys, all different shapes and sizes too.
Right. Yeah. That kid he actually had great size. The UConn kid, Fred. I like Fred Brown though. He's the Mississippi State kid.
Right, we'll keep an eye on that kid.
Yeah,
is it Malcolm Lewis?
Malcolm Lewis.
Malcolm Lewis.
Yes, that's my guy.
At the University of Miami. All right, and you're in amazing shape too. Just want to say that because we catch up with some athletes that don't play anymore, and you're like, how you doing?
Yeah.
Lots of donuts in your life, but you look amazing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I try to work out. That's why I was doing this morning. That's why I told Finn I couldn't get here to 10. I had to work out first.
Good for you. Brian's on a kick too. All right, I want to talk about this with you, Peerless and Brian, because Thomas Dimitrov, who joined, I believe it was the Monday Morning Quarterback, talking about this roster coming up this year. And when Thomas Dimitrov says something, this is the most talented overall roster as a whole group. I'm wildly excited about where we are. It is a well-rounded group.
It's awesome when you go to a Super Bowl and you lose one guy off your starting 22. It's fascinating you can pull that off. And you can do that because you have a young defense that's flying around making plays. It was a need-based partially because you had guys like Warlow and Philip Wheeler playing last year at linebacker spots, and you're just not going to win a whole lot of games with those guys. They're not game changers, good football players, but not game changers. Now Deion Lewis and Devondre Campbell and even this year's draft pick Duke Riley come in to fill those voids and make some things happen. A couple sophomores and a rookie coming in and make some things happen. They lose the right guard and Chris Chester, and that's it. They add Dontari Poe, which is an upgrade, I think, from an older Babineau. And we had a conversation about the opposite side of the ball on Twitter, Peerless, when we were talking about the group as a whole is fantastic. Two-headed monster in the backfield with Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman. Matt Ryan, MVP. Julio Jones, probably the best receiver in the NFL. And then we were going back and forth. I saw you chime in on the wide receiver duos. There was an article that came out that said the number one wide receiver duo in the NFL was the Atlanta Falcons. And it listed Julio Jones, obviously number one. But when you go to this number two guy, in Mohamed Sanu, there's a big discrepancy in that one and that two. And you look at all the different numbers, whether it's yards per game or touchdowns or whatever it is. It was Julio 1, Mohamed Sanu came in like 55 or 60 as far as just kind of different rankings. And you have different guys across the league, whether it's Demaryius Thomas and Sanders up there in Denver. You got the guys in New York, the New York Giants, Odell Beckham and Sterling Shepard, and they throw Brandon, who just switched
Brandon Marshall
up there as well. But you're pretty animated about they're not even close.
Well, so like you said, I agree. I think Julio and Antonio Brown, those are probably the best two receivers in the league. So I saw something yesterday, and it made me think about this conversation. They had a poll, and it said, "Who's better, LeBron James and Tristan Thompson, or Kevin Durant and Draymond Green?" And my initial thought was, that's crazy. It's Kevin Durant and Draymond Green. But anytime you put the best player at a position or in the league in the conversation, then you have to say, okay, it might be some validity in that. So almost everybody on the panel took LeBron James and Tristan Thompson over KD and Draymond Green.
Doesn't that sound crazy when you think about overall numbers?
That's right.
If you're on the playground, you're like, who would you take?
Right.
It's LeBron.
You're taking LeBron. You're taking Julio.
If there's one guy, but when you got
two guys, exactly. So that's when I said, no way. Like, no way do I believe Julio Jones and my boy
Mohamed Sanu.
I think Mohamed Sanu's a good player.
Fits in the system well.
That's right. But there's no way. I'm not even taking those two guys over Deshaun Jackson and Mike Evans in Tampa Bay. And I'm darn sure not taking them over OBJ and Brandon Marshall. That's not happening. I'm not taking them over DT and Sanders. That's not happening. So they're already down to 4 in my book. And I probably could keep going.
Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams.
That's 5. That's 5. So, no, I don't know how it started, but I did see that someone did rate them number 1 in the league, and that's just blasphemy.
What did you and Eric Moulds do in Buffalo? Give me your last couple years or your last year there before the Falcons decided to trade, bring you down here and break you off.
That's right. So even the year before I became a free agent, Moulds had 1,200 yards, and I had 907. He had 10 touchdowns. I had 7 or 8. And then the last year, I had over 1,250. He had 1,290. I had 9 touchdowns. He had 10 touchdowns. So when you're looking at duos, and I look at myself and Moulds, and never once did they consider us the best in the league, top 5 the last couple of years. Yeah, but you had Chris Carter and Randy Moss. You had stud guys, Hall of Fame guys, and I don't see how you can look at the numbers and say Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu are the best in the league.
Right.
The numbers.
It is fascinating though when you talk about the LeBron and Tristan Thompson and KD and Clay or whoever it is, and you go LeBron because he's that much of a difference maker.
Right.
You can't ignore how good he is, and that's kind of where it comes in with Julio Jones. I'd love for you to kind of talk about your experience in Atlanta and how that went. The quarterback difference from going from Buffalo with Rob Johnson.
Drew Bledsoe last
year.
Wow.
And coming down here and seeing Michael Vick throw your balls for a couple years and the change, the differences that made and how that all went.
So for me, it was different. It was totally different because I came from Tennessee, so I played with Peyton Manning and T. Martin. 3 years with Peyton as my starting quarterback.
You guys still close?
Still close. Mm-hmm. We just had this retirement deal in Tennessee last year. It was private. I won't give any details, but we had a ball. A lot of old guys that we played with, and a lot of guys he played with. Coach Former was there. Our AD was there, so it was a good time. And then I get drafted by Buffalo, and I had Doug Flutie. He ran, but he didn't run as much, and he improvised. Scrambled. It wasn't running for yards, at quarterback yards, and then they did bench Doug Flutie.
That was crazy. For the playoffs, right?
The Music City Miracle. Like that.
Oh.
That was crazy. So Doug Flutie leads us to, I think we're 11-4. And they were like, you don't need, you know how people sit the starters.
Mm-hmm.
So we sit Doug Flutie, and Rob Johnson goes in the game. He goes like 23 for 26, throw for over 300 yards. I caught a touchdown. Moulds caught a touchdown. And, and they announced going into the playoff game that he's the new starting quarterback.
Wade Phillips?
Wade Phillips.
What the hell?
What is it? That's what we all thought.
Did he talk to you guys? Did the head coach come to anybody and go, we're thinking about doing this. How do you feel as our starting receivers throughout the course of the season?
No. And I think because honestly, I think if they went and talked to guys, you got to remember I was there with Thurman Thomas and Bruce Smith, and they were very, very opinionated and loved Doug Flutie.
Mm.
And so I think the response wouldn't have went over well if they would have asked the guys.
Yeah.
So they start him. So I go from Doug Flutie to Rob Johnson, and then a lot of people don't know this. I went to even Alex Van Pelt. Like my third year, when I had 900 and Mo's had over 1,000, Alex Van Pelt was our quarterback. And then
he's coaching now. He's coaching in
Green Bay.
Green Bay, that's right. Quarterback
coach in Green Bay.
You're listening to Peerless Price, who is co-hosting the front row with me and Brian today. Go ahead.
And so then Then Mo Lewis, everybody discovers Tom Brady. Mo Lewis blasts Drew Bledsoe on the sideline.
Punctures a
lung, and the rest is history. Tom Brady becomes who he is, and Drew Bledsoe's out of a job, so we trade for Drew Bledsoe. And my goodness, oh my God, he is by far the best quarterback I ever played with.
Really?
You talk about, and Drew, that's my guy. He actually just sent me, he has a winery. He sent me some wine for my 40th birthday.
Oh, nice. I like wine.
Yeah. So Drew is arrogant with his arm. He's like, I'm throwing it, you catch it. And, as a wideout, you love that.
Oh, yeah. Give me a chance.
Give me a chance. And so, go from that, and I'm like, this is it. I'm here in Buffalo forever. And no. They say, this is what we offer you, and we're not changing it. And then $359, I think I'm about to be a free agent. They put the franchise tag on me. It's like, we're trading you. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. This is,
oh my gosh.
That's when I really start realizing it was a business. Because you're a rookie, you come in as a high draft pick, and then you starting as a rookie, making plays, and really you're still in la la land until the business side kick in, and that's when I realized, like, dang.
So the franchise tag was just in order to keep you there so they could trade you?
Yeah.
Did you have any interest? You wanted to stick around.
I wanted to stay, but their offer, I can say it now. And I know a lot of people still be like, that was a lot of money, but I knew I was worth a little more. So they offered me 6 years, $22 million with 6 to sign. Okay. And they were not budged. They were like, this is the offer. And then we had Washington, San Diego, and the Falcons willing to make a trade. And then I was just like, man, I ain't never been to San Diego. That's just way too far. Although now I want to live in La Jolla. But and
West Side.
So yeah, I come to your neck of the woods.
Oh yeah. So you come to Atlanta. What was that deal worth?
7 years, 37 with 10.5 up front.
That upfront money was so big back then because you had so few guaranteed deals on the back. Guaranteed money, that was it.
Yeah, Peerless, that was a monster contract at the time, and we were like, we're getting Peerless Price, this is the greatest thing ever, and your number the year before was crazy off the charts at how good it was.
Right, and so I come here, and
you go from Drew Bledsoe to Michael Vick.
Wait, no.
Oh my gosh, what happened? What did I miss? Did
he broke his leg. Baltimore.
That's right. That was that year.
Preseason game, Michael Vick gets his leg broke
in Baltimore
by the Ravens.
Yes. And so now I go from Doug Johnson. I go to Doug Johnson. So people don't know this. A lot of people don't know this about me. My first 7 years in the league, I played with 7 different starting quarterbacks.
Holy cow.
And 7 different offenses.
And your best one wasn't until your last year in Buffalo.
Yep, that's right.
So you go to Bledsoe to Doug Johnson.
To Doug Johnson. Wait, and then we benched Doug Johnson.
Kirk Kittner?
And Kirk Kittner.
I caught Kirk Kittner's first touchdown.
Hey, there you go.
Bengals.
My lasting story of Kirk Kittner. We're in New Orleans. I don't know if you remember this.
Probably
and he
not.
throws I run a slant. He throws the ball right to the guy.
The other guy.
The other guy. The bad guy. And he goes to the sideline. And you know how competitive I am, man.
I do.
He goes to the sideline, and this guy says, I freaking sucked. Why am I here?
Oh, no.
I'm like,
what?
Why are you here? Get him out of here. Like, that's the wrong attitude to play with me. Like, no, dude, you're here for a reason. Like, yeah, and then I go to Michael Vick, and he comes back the last 4 games. I actually had some great numbers the last 4 games with him. I went back and looked. I think my worst game with him the last 4 games was like 70, 80 yards. But we were throwing it over. Dan Reese was throwing it over the top, though. Yeah. And then the next. So the first year I had like 900 yards.
Which I don't think probably the most receiver I ever had from Michael Vick.
That's right.
I think I had 856 one year.
Yeah.
From him, and that was about as good as you're getting with that system and with Mike Vick. It just doesn't work out that great.
No, and then we got Jim Moore and
West Coast offense,
and
2004.
Yeah, and we and that's when we basically just ran bootlegs. And I remember your boy, was it Alex Gibbs?
Mm-hmm. Crazy ass Alex Gibbs.
Yeah.
He was a zone blocking scheme. First experience I had with the zone blocking scheme at the Falcons are running now.
Yeah, and so Alex Gibbs, I never forget this either. Certain things in my career I will never forget. And we're in meetings, and I don't know if you remember this, man, but he would always say, we're going to boot them to death. We're going to boot them to death. What can they do? We're going to fake it to one great athlete that was Ward Dunn, and we're going to have another great athlete coming on the edge. What the fuck are they going to do?
All right. Well, all right.
What the freak are they going to do?
That's exactly right.
Yes.
Yep.
And so that's what it was. And me and you were running routes. And running comebacks and backside bootlegs.
So you're only here for 2 years.
Yeah. Well, 2.5.
You were here longer than that.
It felt a lot longer.
It did. After that story, I bet it did. That's exactly right. And then you go to Dallas.
Yes, with Bill Parsons. Now I went there late though. That actually was.
Yeah, you're 7 games only. There.
Well, yeah, because I went because I was in training camp with the Falcons. And then,
What the heck happened?
Yeah, what did
can't
happen?
So that's.
I know you told everybody something on your way out, but what happened before that?
Yeah, so that's when, to be honest with you, that's when my pride and ego. That's when Greg Nat, he comes to me and he was like, "We're going to start Dez and Michael Jenkins." And I said, "What?" I said, "No." I said, "Here's the deal." And we had just drafted Roddy. I said, "I am not playing behind them. They're not better than me." And that's what I told him. And not to say anything bad about those guys, because Mike is my boy. I love Mike. And Dez is a great guy, but I was just like, I'm not playing behind those guys. They're like, well, it gives Mike a little more height on the outside. You'll play the slot. You and Algie will be in the slot. And I'm like, nope, not going to happen.
Yeah, I should thank you that you left, because I probably would have not have seen the field at all.
Yeah.
When was the crossover with you two on this?
As soon as he got there,
As soon as he got
I was there.
Okay.
I was already there, and then we played together for a couple of years.
Yep. And so that's what, so that's when I was like, man, just let me go. And Nat was like, I can't make that decision. So I left Nat's office and went to Jim's office, Jim Moore. And he was like, you want to do it? I said, yep. He said, right now? I said, yep. And
did you have a conversation with your agent already?
Nope.
Oh
You just did it that very day on your own.
You said,
okay.
That ego and pride just said, I'm not going to not play behind those guys.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
It's not, I just couldn't do it. It just, like you said, ego and pride, but I'm like, man, no. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever.
Good decision for you?
Great decision for me.
No regrets, okay?
No regrets.
So you go to Dallas, and then the last 2 years in Buffalo.
Yes. And the only regret I have about it is not finishing the way I want to finish because of the neck surgery. So they wouldn't clear me to play again. 9
years in the NFL. That is very impressive.
Hey guys, if you want to chime in at all, you can hit us up on the Vision Computers text line. Just text 680 in your comments to 88474. It's the quickest way to get into the conversation. It's a Vision Computers text line, 88474. I'll check them out. Anything you want to talk about, we might get it out on air.
Peerless, tell me your thoughts on the Falcons' run last year into the Super Bowl.
It was great. I think it was great for the city. You know, this city in sports has been haunted to me. Not as bad as Cleveland. I'm from Ohio, but it's not as bad. But I think it was great just to see the city support, seeing people on social media flying down to Houston, getting excited about the Falcons. It energized the city, and the team. I think they exceeded everyone's expectations, and you know, it's kind of unexpected for them to go on that run. And for me, I was proud of them. Proud. I think this city needs a title, and I think the Falcons, to be honest with you, they're in the best position to do that as far as the professional team goes. Big
time. You talk about what Thomas Dimitroff said, how we kind of started this conversation. Thomas Dimitroff thinks he has the most talented overall group he's ever had as a GM here in Atlanta, and I think he's probably right. With the youth they have on defense, the guys they have flying around, the conversations they've been put in, Matt Ryan, MVP, it's going to be fun to watch, see what they can do. The window is open and it's big for this football team moving forward. There's been some stuff across the NFL lately. I'd love to get your comments on in the next 3 minutes before we go to break here. Colin Kaepernick not being signed so far by any team this offseason after opting out of a deal. John Lynch just came out yesterday, I believe, and said if we told him if he stayed on this team, we were going to let him go if he decided to opt in and keep his contract. I don't know why he got out of it. Nerdy, maybe you can help me out. Was that guaranteed money, like 11 something million? And he opted out, thinking I guess he can go get a long-term deal somewhere else or work his way back into a starting quarterback somewhere in the NFL.
Oh, So see, I almost disagree with that. I don't think he thought he could get more money. I think in his mind, like, he wanted out of that situation.
Bad football team.
Yeah, I think as an athlete, if I look at it from an athletic perspective, he's made enough money, and for him, he's just like, I want out. Like, this is not good. And you got me competing with Austin Davis? Like,
not familiar.
Like, yeah, that's exactly.
He had his Peerless Price moment. I ain't doing that.
And honestly, that's what I think. Like, I think he felt disrespected, and I think he felt like this situation is so bad, I can go somewhere else.
All right, now your take that he hasn't gone anywhere else, and no one has gone out there except Seattle brought him in for a meeting, but they haven't pulled the trigger yet either.
I think that's bullcrap, because I think, what is it, 96 jobs? It's almost, well, some teams keep 2 now. But
yeah.
Roughly 80 jobs.
Especially now, there's almost 100 quarterbacks out there on teams.
Right. There's no way. I can name 5 guys that I think he's better than, and they're starting for teams. He can't start for Chicago? Yeah. He can't start for the Jets? Like, come on, you're kidding yourself. In my old team, and I love him to death, he'll give Tyrod a run for his money in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on now. Like, I think it has a lot to do with his protests. But, I mean, there's guys that done worse that are making a whole lot of money in professional sports.
Yeah. I think by the time training camp comes along, he'll be on a team. He will. Somebody's going to
have to bite the bullet and take very little money and earn his way back to one of those big contracts I think he's looking for.
Yeah.
That's right. I think, he'll have to take less money.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and you're listening to Peerless Price, who's going to be with us till noon, so stay where you are if you're loving this talk, because I know I am Peerless. And coming up, we're going to do Belly Up to the Bar. Guess where Matt Ryan was yesterday, because I'm going to tell you. Ooh, it's cold. You're listening to The Front Row, driven by Kia.